April 29, 2015. 9 convicted drug traffickers await the firing squad in Indonesia. Across from the place known as Execution Island, family and supporters gather in despair.
I won't see him again, and they're going to take him at midnight and shoot him.
The prisoners have farewelled their loved ones. All that's left is grief.
You go to bed thinking there's nothing more I can do. And I've never had a client shot, so it's a very difficult experience.
But in the final moments, one is spared. Mary Jane Veloso, a Filipina housemaid.
Until the last moment of her breath is taken away, never give up.
This is the story behind the story. How was Mary Jane saved, and will she make it home? Manila is breathtakingly poor. Every single day, more than 20,000 people come to the Philippines' capital, desperate for work.
Manila was originally expected to accommodate around 800,000 people, but now with up to 25 million in the city and surrounds, there's just not enough space, not enough jobs, not enough of anything really, and that's why people are on the move around the country and around the world to find work to feed their families. Payuna, let's go! Let's go.
One in 10 end up leaving here for jobs overseas. Their families and the government depend on the money they send home. Last year, it was $28 billion. There's a thriving, legitimate industry that sources the jobs and organises travel. There's also a dark side to this mass movement of people. The poor are vulnerable. Mary Jane Veloso says she was tricked. Despite being a convicted drug trafficker, she's become an unlikely heroine in the Philippines because many can identify with her story.
She's a single mother, okay, with 2 little boys, 6 and 12, okay? And then she was forced to get out of my country, as in the case of millions of other Filipinos, more or less 5,000 to 6,000 every day, flying out of my country to look for opportunities just to put food on the table or to realize the basic dream of living a decent life of a human being.
Mary Jane owes her life partly to this man, human rights lawyer Edre Alalia and his team.
Good day, Mary Jane.
They only took up the case a month before she was scheduled to die, after she was neglected by her own government.
I mean, it's another wake-up call, so to speak, for our governments to really, sincerely, consistently take care of their own. After all, they contribute a lot to our economy.
From a poor family, Mary Jane Veloso says she was offered work as a domestic servant in Malaysia by a family friend. But when she got there was no job, and she was given a ticket to find work in Indonesia instead. She says the friend bought her new clothes and gave her a new suitcase to put them in. When she arrived in Indonesia, 2.6 kilograms of heroin was found in the bag. After being arrested, it was 3 months before she got a visit from a consular official. And just a few months after that, she was found guilty of drug smuggling and sentenced to death.
I'd been looking at 4 or 5 cases, not on the papers, just the general information of 4 or 5 cases, largely women on death row who have issues of coercion, manipulation, deception, falls within the definition of human trafficking. And she was one of the examples I was using without ever being connected to her case.
Felicity Gerry QC is a British lawyer currently based in Darwin, where she specialises in transnational crimes involving violence and exploitation of women. She got involved at the last minute after reading a chain email.
And the email said, "Help Mary Jane, sign the petition, can you do something?" And I just thought, well, if I don't do something now, I don't know if they've got the information that I've got. I don't know if I'm sitting here in this office with the information about Indonesian human trafficking law, and I don't know if they've got that. They may have, they may not. So I replied and I said, "I think I can help you."
It set off a remarkable international collaboration. Felicity Gerry, human rights lawyer Edre Alalia, and Philippine Workers' rights group Migrante International began communicating online just 1 week before the scheduled executions. Felicity had some crucial advice for the team in the Philippines.
This is all about protecting women, particularly. The major statistics are that it's women and girls that are exploited in organised crime.
At the heart of the team's defence, the argument that Mary Jane was trafficked, and under international treaties that both Indonesia and the Philippines have signed, she should never have been prosecuted in the first place.
So the simple way to explain the law in Mary Jane's case is that you have a UN protocol that defines what a human traffic victim is. So it's not just somebody who's forced to do something. It can be someone who's forced, coerced, deceived, manipulated in a situation of abuse of trust or importantly, an abuse of vulnerability. And here we have extreme poverty, extreme vulnerability with somebody with no other choices.
The story of how Mary Jane came to be locked up in an Indonesian jail begins in her home province of northern Luzon. There are few jobs here and wages are low, so it's a rich source of migrant workers. Mary Jane and her sisters all left to look for work overseas.
Hello. Nice to meet you. How are you?
Hello, Ma'am.
Lovely to see you.
Thank you,
Are you
Ma'am.
well?
Yes.
Nice to be at your home.
The extended family still lives in this simple compound. Among them, Sister Marites and Mary Jane's 2 young sons, Mark Darren, aged 6, and Mark Daniel, 12. They were all in Indonesia at the moment Mary Jane was due to be executed, having just said their last goodbyes.
When we heard that Mary Jane is safe, my God, we're all jump, clap our hands, we're all smiling, we're hugging each other, kissing each other because, oh my God, it's a miracle. Thank you, Lord. Thank you, God, Jesus. Thank you for saving the life of Mary Jane.
How did the boys respond when they heard that their mother was alive? What did they
Mark
do?
Daniel is jumping in the bed. She bumped her head in the in the roof because she's jumping and jumping like that.
In this deeply Catholic country, Mary Jane's mother Celia sees her daughter's last-minute reprieve as a sign from heaven.
Panginoon ang nagligtas sa kanya. Napakasaya ko, parang doon pa lang ako nagising. Parang doon ko pa lang nalaman na papatay na pala anak ko. Parang doon ko pa lang nalaman. Para ako nagising. Ang saya ko talaga nung hindi ko salay sa yung saya ko talaga na yun. Parang Sa pakiramdam ko, para bang lumulundag ako na nakalutang na hindi ko maano. Sasaya ko talaga.
But it's just a temporary relief. Mrs. Veloso knows her daughter remains at risk. The execution has been postponed, not cancelled. Now the family is looking for more help from above to bring Mary Jane home. But the answer to their prayers may lie much closer, in a village just a short drive away. This is the home of the woman who's been accused of illegally recruiting Mary Jane and entrapping her, her godsister and former family friend, Christina Serio.
It was here that Mary Jane once lived, and this house is less than 50 metres from the home of the woman that she accuses of double-crossing her. Life in this village has changed since those allegations were made.
In a dramatic twist to the story, Christina Serio and her partner Julius Lacanillo presented themselves to police on April 28, the day before Mary Jane was due to face the firing squad, saying Mary Jane was innocent. Christina is the woman who Mary Jane says betrayed her in Malaysia, promising her a job and then helping her shop for clothes. Christina and Julius deny the charges of illegal recruitment and human trafficking and say they went to the police because they were receiving death threats and frightened for their lives. The village is divided and feelings are running so high that Mary Jane's family is now under police protection.
Christina's house is just there.
These women told us that Christina Serio also tried to recruit them, but then pretended she didn't know them when they came forward.
Tapos sinasabi po niya na hindi siya recruiter, hindi siya nagpapaalis. Tapos ahente daw po siya ng lupa. Kaya po lumabas kami, nagpatunay po kami na nagre-recruit siya. Kasi ang sinasabi niya sa TV na hindi siya recruiter. Tapos aamin siya na isa siyang recruiter. Sino po? Di siya po nagsisinungaling. Kaya nga po sabi namin puro kasinungalingan ang sinasabi niya, manong aminin na siya ang gumawa. Hindi yung biktima na siyang nagdudusa, na walang kasalanan. Samantalang siya andito nagpapakasarap.
The evidence so far available has pointed to the fact, the indisputable fact, that she has sent a lot of Filipinas, especially in her own province, Nueva Ecija, in different places. And the modus operandi, or the pattern, is that she accompanies these persons to a second country before she sends it to a third country. It's not straight away. It's not Philippines, Indonesia. You go to a second country first before you go to Indonesia. So there's a pattern, right? And then she's not licensed. So the records will show that she has no authority or license to recruit people for a fee, especially.
Lawyer Felicity Gerry has come from Darwin to meet the rest of the legal team face to face for the first time. Mary Jane's stay of execution is only temporary. It's now about getting her out of prison and home to the Philippines.
You feel like you know them?
I feel like I know them, yeah, absolutely. Really well, actually. It's a pleasure to meet lawyers, if you like, on the other side of the world who are dealing with the same issues that I've been researching and involved with. So an absolute pleasure to have the most amazing case in the world that is capable of changing so many people's lives.
For any first-time visitor, Manila is an eye-opener. For Felicity, the poverty helps explain the plight of Mary Jane and others like her.
So that's the mission today. We're going to talk about how do we bring Mary Jane home. The bigger picture is how do you protect exploited people, particularly the exploited people of the Philippines. That's the much bigger picture and the much bigger job. So this is a massive, massive opportunity for governments and lawyers in every single country to say, what are we doing about human trafficking?
Hello, finally, I'm good. Welcome.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for all the help.
No, welcome. All the help gratefully given.
It's good for you to be on board.
Yeah.
Backed by a huge public campaign, these lawyers managed to pull off a remarkable coup, helping to persuade Indonesia not to kill Mary Jane Veloso. They say that as a victim of trafficking, she should never have been sentenced to die, despite Indonesia's mandatory drug laws.
Would not every drug trafficker say, I'm a trafficked person and that is my defence?
Yes, of course, but it's a matter of proof. It's a matter of credibility as well. It's a question of evidence. It's a question also of consistency, whether they can be verified, validated, and double-checked. And we did that. And it is our moral conviction that our client is absolutely innocent. But even then, the point is she's still trafficked. She's a trafficked person, and then the only thing that could be possibly proven is that she was in possession. But she was not selling, she was not buying, she was not using. And since the only arguable evidence that you can present is possession, the corresponding penalty is not death. It should be life imprisonment or even lower.
The lawyers contend that Mary Jane was lied to and in a position of deep vulnerability in a foreign country where she knew no one other than the woman who took her there on the promise of a job that never existed.
Largely, you've got people from source countries like the Philippines and Indonesia being used in transnational organised crime as drug mules to cross borders, and so that other people can make money, making profit on the back of people like Mary Jane. The primary legal issue, in a sense, is that this is an exploited person, exploited by her circumstances in many ways. Add to that corruption and unfair trial procedures, and the right and proper thing to do is to send her home to her kids, isn't it?
The plight of Mary Jane Veloso has struck a chord in the Philippines. The story of the wronged maid on death row, true or not, has come to represent the plight of all poor Filipinos forced to work abroad, separated from their families for years and often abused. It's put huge pressure on the government to do more to help Mary Jane, including trying to obtain a presidential pardon from Indonesia. The driving force behind the campaign is workers' rights group Migrante International, which has worked tirelessly to raise Mary Jane's profile. Here, from their modest Manila headquarters, they represent all Filipinos working abroad. Mistreated workers like Lowell come here for help.
It's very sad for me because I want to be something someday. I want to be somebody someday, but ended to nobody.
Why do you say that?
Because my dream didn't come true.
How long have you been working with Migrante for?
In her haste to improve her life, she was conned into paying a recruiter for a job that simply didn't exist. Now she owes thousands to moneylenders. Women like Lowell, who've been tricked and cheated, don't see Mary Jane Veloso as a criminal. They see her as one of them.
Mary Jane comes from a very poor family, and so I was. And then I am the breadwinner of my family, and she was. So we are related. Only the difference is he was convicted to death, and I am here. But I lost thousands of pesos already. I lost the future of my children. So that's the difference. But I am very well related to the case of Mary Jane Veloso.
Mary Jane's story has become a rallying point for migrant workers across the Philippines. The rich and powerful are also joining in. Former world boxing champion Manny Pacquiao appealing to the Indonesian president directly.
His Excellency President Joko Widodo, I, Manny Pacquiao, on behalf of my countryman, Mary Jane Veloso, and the entire Filipino people, I am begging and knocking at your kind heart that your Excellency will grant executive clemency to her.
The struggle to free Mary Jane now rests on court proceedings against the woman accused of manipulating her.
We've been confident, not in a boastful way, confident in a way that the facts and the law are on our side and the truth is on our side.
Today, Christina's lawyers are making a submission to the judge.
May I ask the counsel for response? Are you going to file a counter affidavit?
Yes, Your Honor.
In it, Christina Serio doesn't admit guilt, but crucially, she declares Mary Jane is innocent.
As well as 10 other witnesses, sir.
Are you admitting your guilt in the affidavit?
No, I'm not guilty.
Just tell me
Just
what's in your
ask them.
affidavit. What do you say in your affidavit? What's your main point?
To set us all free.
Okay.
That's it.
Have you trafficked people? Are you a human trafficker?
No,
Did you traffic drugs?
no,
Okay.
never in my life.
Were you an illegal recruiter?
No. That's it.
So how
She
can you
claims
say
that
Mary Jane
African
innocent?
drug traffickers placed the drugs in Mary Jane's bag without her knowledge. But she says she didn't know either.
Yes, she's still denying that, and in fact, she in fact stated in the sworn statement that Mary Jane is in fact innocent. She was duped by these two men.
So she's saying Mary Jane is innocent because she was manipulated by these men, but that she did not do it.
She did not do it totally.
Kindly raise your right hand. Laki na nilaw ilargo. Binasa mo ba tong iyong...
What happens next is now up to the judicial systems of two countries. First, Mary Jane's lawyers here in the Philippines need to prove that she was illegally recruited and that she should be brought back to testify in court. Ultimately, the team is hoping for a presidential pardon from Indonesia.
I cannot free Mary Jane myself. We can free Mary Jane. Everybody who has a heart, for people who are victims, the poor, the voiceless, the shirtless. Everybody who has a heart for people who are abandoned by their own government.
Ang Mary Jane na buong araw na nagpagod sa sakahan.
A poetry reading in Manila with friends and supporters is a rare chance for Mary Jane's parents to relax and celebrate the fact their daughter is still alive.
What you are doing is nonsense. I am the victim. I am the victim here.
What would it be like to see Mary Jane walk through the door into your home?
Masaya.
Magahimatayin ako.
Masaya, happy.
Sobrang saya.
Talagang sobra saya namin. Talagang kami Kami mag-asawa talagang nagdasal kami sa Panginoon, talagang nangako kami sa Panginoon na pagdating yung anak namin, talagang paghahandaan namin siya pag-uwi niya.
Ang pangako ng recruiter ay tulad ng pangako na tuwid na daan.
For Felicity Gary, a chance email she chose not to delete has led not just to possibly helping to save this one life, but she hopes many more.
I feel as though, look, I'm a mum, she's a mum, and we connected across the ocean, if you like. I've never even met her, but there I am sitting in my office being a mum, and I've got the piece of law that can save her. And I'm just so glad that I answered that email. Yeah, it's really, really emotional.
If Mary Jane's death sentence is commuted, she hopes a similar defence could be used in other drug mule cases, and the women encouraged to give evidence against their exploiters.
How are you going to empower people like Mary Jane Veloso to make legitimate choices, not to be manipulated or deceived? Because if you shoot her, you might as well shoot every exploited person. You know, this is a huge job to fix. There are millions of people here who are starving, desperate, sick, with no choices like we have. It's such a hard concept to understand, you know, that we are so privileged that we get to make a choice.